The future is Marine Le Pen. That's exactly what a number of scholars and pundits are saying today, despite Macron's win yesterday. In this video, we're going to take a look at the fallout from France's astonishing presidential election over the weekend. We're going to see why so many are saying that nationalist populism was actually the big winner in the election. And stick with me to the very end of this video and I'll reveal why more and more commentators are indeed admitting that the future belongs to none other than the likes of Marine Le Pen. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Stevie with you. Great to be with you. As always, I am your daily fake news antidote. So come on into your Patron Professor's Den. We're helping to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe. But before we begin, I do want to introduce you to an amazing organization called Patriot Switch. You know, we often talk about building parallel structures in businesses and institutions to emancipate ourselves from all the woke corporations like Disney and Netflix that are out there. Well, Patriot Switch has helped over 2 million patriots all across the country make sure that all their purchases go to support patriotic companies. Isn't that awesome? And the coolest thing here is that you don't even have to change anything outside your ordinary routine or the items you ordinarily purchase. Patriot Switch will show you exactly how you can start voting with your dollars to support companies that promote our values of faith, family, and freedom. So make sure to learn more by visiting Patriot Switch in the description below. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. Well, according to one interpretation, it's official. The French have once again surrendered. That's right, as our good friend Red Eagle points out, true to historical form, the French waved the white flag yesterday in terms of their future as a nation. At least that is one interpretation of what happened yesterday. France, of course, had their presidential elections as the incumbent globalist Emmanuel Macron went on to beat the nationalist populist candidate Marine Le Pen. And as a result, he is the first French president to win re-election in 20 years, if you can believe it. Macron actually overperformed his polling. The latest poll had him and Le Pen separated by about 6 points. It actually looks now that final tally was more like 17-point win, 58 to 42%. So, yes, a number of pundits are saying that French voters basically surrendered their future yesterday in putting Macron back in office. But I think this view is very short-sighted in terms of what happened yesterday, and more pundits are indeed recognizing that as of this morning. While Le Pen lost, nevertheless, scores of scholars are recognizing that she had a record night, such that while formally losing the election, there is little question that nationalist populism has taken deep root in the mainstream of French politics. And as a result, populism really did win the day as of yesterday. Now, take a look at this. This is all you need to know. In 2002, the nationalist populist candidate Jean-Marie Le Pen, that's Marine Le Pen's father, he got just shy of 18% of the vote when he ran for president. He got crushed by Jacques Chirac back then, 20 years ago. So nationalist populists back then were getting 18% of the national vote. Then the next time a Le Pen ran in the runoff, Marine Le Pen, that was in 2017, she got 34% of the vote. She doubled her father's percentage in the span of 15 years. Now, as of yesterday, the nationalist populist Le Pen got 42% of the vote, an 8% increase in the span of 5 years. So we've gone from 18% to 34% to now 42, 43% in the span of 20 years. And that fits with the pattern that we've been seeing throughout most of Europe over the same time period. We've seen more or less a 300% increase in both the amount of nationalist populist political parties that have been formed in Europe over the last 20 years, and a 300% increase in the amount of nationalist populist parties currently serving in various European parliaments. And so this is why British scholar Matthew Goodwin is arguing that even though Marine Le Pen lost, it is absolutely clear that the momentum, the energy, the growth is thoroughly with the nationalist populists. And I found Goodwin's article for Unheard particularly insightful, and I wanted to share this with you. It was written a few days before the election, and here's how the article starts. Quote, "Whatever happens in the second round of the French election," which of course was yesterday, Marine Le Pen will be able to claim victory. If the polls are correct, as they were in round one, she will receive around 46% of the vote. But while Le Pen will fail to win the presidency, she will be able to savor another prize, the knowledge that she has forever broken the mold of French politics. And one of the stats that Goodwins cites is how much the nationalist populist vote has grown in the first round of French presidential elections. So we looked at the second round, election patterns, where Le Pen's father got 18% of the vote 20 years ago. And then several years later, she got 34%. And then as of yesterday, 42%. But Goodwin looks particularly at the first round voting percentage. France has, of course, 2 rounds of presidential elections. And the first round involves an election where anybody and everybody can run for president, from which they pick the top 2 winners to go on to the second round of the runoff. So in the first round, the election stats are even more impressive. The nationalist populists have gone from getting less than 1% of the vote back in 1974 to 15% of the vote in 1995 to just over 20% in 2017. And now, if you can believe it, just 4 weeks ago, the nationalist populist candidates combined, so we're talking Marine Le Pen, Eric Zemmour, a couple of others, they pulled in over 32% of the vote. That's 1 in 3 voters. Now, just to give you a sense of how dramatic that is, 32% of the vote is higher than all French left-wing parties combined. So this is astonishing stuff. Now, what Goodwin points out here is just how absolutely flummoxed and bewildered the permanent political class is over it. It's like with the stubborn persistence and popularity with regard to Trump. Our permanent political class just cannot believe this. They simply can't believe that nationalist populism continues to grow. And I'll show you exactly why. But first, what do you think of this shirt here? Wake up and woke down. Well, you can get your own by clicking on the link below and visiting our merch store. This is one of the best ways that you can support this channel, all while spreading patriot hope far and wide. Get something for yourself. Get something for the patriots in your life. Go to store.turleytalks.com. That's store.turleytalks.com. All right, so as far as our permanent political class are concerned, COVID was supposed to kill off populism. COVID was supposed to be the death knell for nationalism and nativism. I mean, take a look at this headline from Foreign Policy magazine. They actually ran a piece declaring that the pandemic proves that only technocrats and elite experts can save us. Our globalist elite actually believed that populists and patriots were indeed not merely irrelevant in that crisis, but were actually detrimental and harmful, especially in terms of how they denigrate our credentialed class. COVID was supposed to kill populism. But as we recently saw with the landslide elections in Hungary and Serbia, populist candidates continue to actually grow in popularity. And that's exactly what Goodwin points out here in his article for Unheard, especially now with the nationalist populists in France scoring their highest percentages ever as of yesterday. In response to the notion that the technocrats are winning in the aftermath of COVID, here is what Goodwin writes, quote, "The elections in France and elsewhere point in the opposite direction," referring to the first round election. 2/3 of the French just voted for anti-establishment candidates outside of the incumbent president and the 2 mainstream Gaullist and socialist traditions which have dominated post-war France. Combined, support for the French Gaullists and the socialists collapsed, get this, from 54% in the late 80s to just 6% today. Over the last half century, the French socialists, once the preeminent left-wing party in Europe, have fallen from over 40% to just 1.7% today. They are, in short, almost extinct. It is Marine Le Pen, not socialists, who can claim with a straight face to be the main working-class party in French politics. So you've got to get this. I mean, we talked about this in our video right after the first round of elections. Combined, the vote for the center-right and the center-left in France didn't even reach double digits in the first round. Didn't even hit 10%. This is a total collapse of modern Cold War globalist politics. And that, I believe, is exactly how we need to interpret this election. Look at these stats. Again, this is coming from Matthew Goodwin. Absolutely fascinating. The only age group where Macron was outpolling Le Pen in the run-up to the election was among those over the age of 60. Young people love Le Pen. Actually, she gets some of her strongest support from voters between the ages of 18 to 24. I noted in our last video on the French election a couple of weeks back that there was a YouGov poll that found that 56% of voters between the ages of 18 to 24, these so-called Generation Zers, they backed Le Pen. And this is something that's absolutely crushing what's called the cultural backlash thesis. This is a term that's derived from a book that was recently published by two university professors, Pippa Norris and Ronald Inglehart, who argued that the political success of populists around the world, like President Trump in the United States, Viktor Orban in Hungary, and Bolsonaro in Brazil, is because of a backlash made up primarily of old white men, okay? This is actually a serious thesis out there. The populist and patriot movements around the world are thriving because a bunch of bigoted and racist old white men are reacting en masse against the inevitable demographic and cultural transformations initiated by an increasingly non-white and progressive migrant population. But the key to this thesis is that this resistance is only temporary, and that's because we all, quote, know that the youngest voters are the most progressive and liberal ever. And so, as these older white voters die out and young idealistic leftists take over, a massive woke wave will inevitably cover the globe. This is what is known as the cultural backlash thesis. And this French election just showed how utterly ridiculous that thesis is. What we're finding is that it's the older voters who are the ones most inclined to vote for the status quo. It's the younger voters who are attracted to nationalist populism. So as it turns out, it's the old Cold War mentality, the hangover from the old globalist bipolar world that keeps people like Macron in power. But this is an age group that, of course, is increasingly dying out. Now, whether Marine Le Pen will run again, we'll, of course, have to see. But far from getting buried by COVID, it appears that her brand of nationalist populism, particularly in Europe and especially here in the States with the rise of the Trumpist MAGA movement ready to storm the midterms, it really does appear that the future belongs to the likes of Marine Le Pen. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded on CNN Plus, officially shutting down after just days in business. All as woke media outlets like Netflix and Disney are absolutely imploding. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure to click on that link, and I will see you over there. God bless.